it is so. And it is so. And it is so. And it is so. That's what that means. And it is so. And it is so. Hey, come on, somebody. I came with expectancy in my heart. And it is so. Oh, my God. I feel God in here. I feel his presence. I don't know about you, but I felt his presence. When I got here at the meeting at 9:30, I felt his presence then, and it's just a carryover of his presence. Come on, put a sound in this house. Put your hands together. Come on, not for me, but for the I am that I am, for the King of Kings, for the Lord of Lords. Put a sound in this house. Good morning, family. Good morning, Greater Grace Houston. It's good to see you all. I would just like to take a couple of minutes to say thank you to my spiritual parents, my leaders, Apostle E.L. Usher, Pastor Lady Tawanda Usher. I say thank you for giving me this opportunity. I don't take it lightly. Thank you for my parents for praying, all four y'all. Thank you for praying with me and backing me up. Thank you, Cousin Lisa, for showing up this morning. Listen, like Apostle said, when he told me to get ready, the Lord said Ezekiel 37. So I started to get ready, and that's where we're going to be this morning. So if you'll go to Ezekiel 37, I'm going to be in the NIV. We're going to be at the 1st through the 10th verse. Amen. The Lord took hold of me, and I was carried away by the Spirit of the Lord to the valley filled with bones. He led me all around among the bones that covered the valley. They were scattered everywhere across the ground and were completely dried out. Then he asked me, Son of man, can these bones become living people again? O sovereign Lord, I replied, you alone know the answer to that. Then he said to me, speak a prophetic message to these bones and say, dry bones, listen to the word of the Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says. Look, I am going to put breath into you and make you live again. Come on, somebody shout it, live again. I will put flesh and muscle on you and cover you with skin. I will put breath into you and you will come to life. Then you will know that I am the Lord. So I spoke this message just as he told me. Suddenly I spoke. There was a rattling noise across the valley. The bones of each body came together and attached themselves as complete skeletons. Then I watched muscle and flesh form over the bones. The skin formed and covered their bodies, but there was still no breath in them. My God, still no breath in them. Then he said to me, speak a prophetic message to the winds. Son of man, speak a prophetic message and say, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Come, O breath, from the four winds. Breathe into these bodies so they may live again. Somebody say it, live again. So I spoke the message as he commanded me, and breath came into their bodies. They all came to life and stood on their feet, a great army. God, I ask that you decrease me so that you may increase, Father, so that your will and your way may happen. Go ahead and take your seats. I just want you to talk to somebody next to you, even if you got to look across the way if they're not making eye contact with you, and just let them know. If I was going to give this a title, I would just say, breathe again. Yeah, breathe again. Let it sound great in this house. Say, breathe again. So I just need you to recognize, we're just going to walk the text this morning because this text in itself is very powerful. If you were listening, the word has already been preached, but let me just break it down a little bit more for you so you can understand. That's all I'm trying to get you to do, is to understand what happened with Ezekiel in this moment. God took Ezekiel, he took his prophet, he took him low. Most times, or we see often when God grabs one of his sons, one of his daughters, when he takes them to a mountain. Even Jesus went to the mountain, but when they ended up in a place of a den or someplace low, it was typically because they were standing on what God told them. But God took Ezekiel low. He took him to a valley. Yeah, and not only did he guide him to a valley, he decided that it needed to be a valley where there was nothing surrounding Ezekiel but death. There was nothing around him but death. Ezekiel was surrounded by what was once alive. But I have to help you realize that in this valley of death, it wasn't a fresh death. It wasn't a death where flesh was still there. It wasn't something that just died yesterday. It was something that had to take the time to decompose and to break down to the point where even the bones themselves didn't even have any moisture. They were dry. It was a dry area of death. But even in the valley, surrounded by death, surrounded by what was dried out, Ezekiel was able to remain focused. Ezekiel had that kind of relationship with God. You see, he knew that he could take Ezekiel to some uncomfortable circumstances and put him in a situation that might make most folks cringe or make most folks just want to walk away. Oh, come on. He put him in a valley where there was nobody around him to even encourage him or to talk him into or to talk him out of what God was trying to do. That's where he took him. He had enough faith in the man of God. You see, it couldn't have been me in that valley. I don't know about you, but in that valley, surrounded by something that couldn't even talk to me or give me encouragement, I would have had a ton of questions. You would have too. The main one being, God, you could have taken me anywhere. You could have surrounded me by the living waters, but you had to make your point known, surrounded by death. He took him to this area. He entered the valley, and Ezekiel did one thing. He did one thing, and I got to take note of it. Ezekiel remained focused. He didn't take his eyes off of God. He didn't get in the valley and shut his ears. He didn't get in the valley and close his eye. He did not go to the valley and die. No, Ezekiel kept his focus on God. So in a valley circumstance, it's key, it's pivotal that your focus is to remain on God. God brought me to the valley. He brought me to death, but my focus is remaining on him. This is not the time. This is not the season. This is not the year where your focus is off of God. Your focus is to remain on God. My God, he brought him to the valley of death. Ezekiel understood where he was. He understood that there was no hope here. He understood that maybe this is where dreams come to die. You see, he understood this is where things get cast off. He understood this is not where people come for a celebration. No. He understood that this was a place where somebody felt the life had been emptied out of them, where they felt everything being drained from them. Ezekiel knew that's where he was. This was a place where draining happened. My God, areas that were hidden, that seemed lifeless, came here. We might have walked away from this valley. I might have walked away when there was nothing around. I might have walked away when I felt like there was no reason to be here because it seemed to be dead. It seemed our hope was lost. It seemed that faith was not even necessary here because you see, it was no life. It was a bone pit. That's what it was. But Ezekiel stayed there, and he understood that it was time, that it was time. It was time for breath to come back. He knew it was time. It was time for something to shift. God brought me to the valley to show me what was dead, not just so I could see it, but to let me know that it is time for some things to shift. It's time for these bones to move and breathe again. It's time, it's time, it's time, it's time, it's time. So calm down. Calm down. I gotta walk the text. Y'all making me excited. So here in the valley, God brought Ezekiel. He brought his prophet to this area of death. He brought his prophet to this valley of death. He brought this prophet to this place of hopelessness and faithlessness just so he could ask him a question. And God, you brought me all the way here just so you can ask me a question. Might have been something I said, but Ezekiel didn't take that approach with God. You see, God brought him here where there were no distractions, and he had to listen to him. He brought him away from what my mama might say. He brought him away from what my daddy might say. He brought him away from what my best friend might say. He brought him to a place of isolation. And so he had to see. He said, God asked him, can these dry bones live again? Can this death-filled situation live again? Can this hopeless situation get itself back together? Now you see, I hope you understand that God knew what he was capable of. It was just a test to see what Ezekiel would say, because the creator of the universe, the one who said, this is water, this is land, sea stop there, land begin here. The one who said, come on, dirt, get yourself together and make a man. Oh man, let me knock you out. Just give me one rib so I can form woman. You see, God knew what he was capable of, but he had to ask his prophet, do you believe that these dry bones could live again? And it was Ezekiel's response that caused God to move. You see, Ezekiel knew. Ezekiel had the faith. Sometimes it's not a question of your faith, because you got the mustard seed faith, and we know that mustard seed faith moves the mountains. It wasn't about the faith part. Ezekiel had the faith, but Ezekiel's response was, Father, you alone know the answer to this. It's not that I don't have the faith, but let me tell you what that symbolized. When Ezekiel said, Father, you alone know what the answer is, it was submission in his faith that caused God to respond. What am I saying? Let me make it as plain as Lay's potato chips. What he was saying was, I have the faith that you can do it, God. I know that you can do it, God, but I'm submitting to your will. Let your will be done. That's what Ezekiel said. Let your will be done. It was that response. It was that response that caused God to move. It's when I say, God, I know you can. Can you imagine? God, I know what I want you to do. I know what I want to see done. I know I want to see you heal. I know I want to see you move. And I know you can do it. And I know you will do it. But God, let your will be done. Let your will be done. Ezekiel responded, and he submitted to the will of God, and God reacted immediately. the faith of Ezekiel was backed up for his submission of God's will to be done. And that's what it's going to take for God to respond in this season. Not only, God, I know you will. God, I have the faith that you can do it. But God, let your will be done. That's what it is. Ezekiel responded and God moved. Ezekiel was waiting for his will to be done, and God decided to move. God told Ezekiel exactly what to say, and that's what Ezekiel said, and God moved. But I hope you saw that when God had Ezekiel speak to breathe life back into this dry, dead, desolate, hopeless, faithless, death-filled situation, every bone in the valley made a response. Every bone in the valley got to moving. So it wasn't just one thing that God was doing, but everything that had been cast down in the valley, you see it had to respond. So everything that seems without life, everything that seems hopeless, it looks desolate and death-filled, had to respond to the command of the Lord. So the bones got to moving. Some noise started happening in the valley. It wasn't Ezekiel, you see. It was just him and God. And he saw the bones come back together. And he saw some muscle get added back on. And he saw the flesh get added back on. And he saw the skin come back on. So if you get it, if you got it, then you know that in this valley situation, when God responds this time, when he responds this time, not only is it coming back together, but whatever was lost in the valley has to come back. That's what happened. Whatever was taken in the valley has to come back. It's coming 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 back. I thought I wasn't getting it back, but it's getting ready to come back. So God doesn't just desire for you to get it back and for you to breathe again. He desires to give back to you what was taken away. Ezekiel spoke and God breathed. The dead began to get some life. There was movement. It got noisy in the valley. What was dead felt the breath of God, and it couldn't stay still. What was dead felt the breath of God, and it had to respond. You see, what was dead had to start making some noise to let you know I'm still here. I got some more in me that has to come out. I got something else that has to it's something else attached to me that has to go. So when God moves, when he breathes, when my God, when he when he breathed, it couldn't stay the same. The bones felt the breath, and they couldn't stay the same. They had to start getting themselves together because they realized that something was coming. They realized a move was getting ready to happen. And this time, when the move happened, this time, when the came, this time, when God, that that's when they moved, because they knew that I can't miss out on this season. I can't miss out on what's next. And they moved and they got together and they set up. But it was something wrong with the bones. It was something wrong with what was once a bone, and now it's a body, because it has the flesh and it has the skin and it has the muscle, but it's still something off in this valley. What was wrong in the valley? What was wrong in the valley? Let me tell you, Ezekiel, God's prophet, the prophet saw, and he realized something's off with this situation. I see the bodies, and they seem to be alive. They got the arms, and they got their legs. And some noise was made, which signifies life, because I heard something, but something still appeared to be missing. What was wrong with the bodies? They were living, but still dead. You see, they were living, but still dead. They felt the of God, and they got together, but they forgot to do something. Ezekiel saw, and he noticed. He said, now these bodies, you see, they seem to be alive, but it's not a single body that's sitting up, that's standing up, that is breathing. They're just sitting dead, walking dead, breathing, not breathing, teaching dead, serving dead, singing dead, praying dead. It was something wrong with the bodies. It was something wrong in this valley. I thought after that everything would have gotten together, but the bodies forgot to inhale the breath that God let out. So, let me tell you, sometimes we miss the inhale when we feel the, because I get excited when I feel the, and when I feel the, I get up and I move, but I moved and I forgot to inhale, so I missed what God was trying to do, because I got ahead when I felt the. Walking around in flesh without the breath of God. Walking around in feelings because I forgot the breath of God. That's why you can't serve for a long time, because you forgot to inhale his breath. That's why you can't stay focused on the task you were given, because you forgot to take in the breath of God. That's why it seems so impossible, because you forgot to inhale when God decided to. I'm sorry. I wasn't talking about y'all. I was talking about the bones, y'all. I was talking about these bodies. I was talking about the bodies who thought they had it all together, because I felt God, but I didn't let him feel me. You felt God, but you didn't let him feel you. I gotta take in. I gotta take in what God is, what he's blowing, what he's giving, because it's something in the wind of God that just helps everything come together. So Ezekiel noticed these bones, and you see, it takes a wise prophet, a wise man of God, to notice when we're in this situation and things are ready to move, to say, I got the bodies, but y'all not ready because you're not breathing. Ezekiel took the time and he didn't say, let's go, let's move from here. No. What Ezekiel did was he decided to talk to God and he decided to prophesy. You see, there was the first command for the bones to breathe and live again. But then there was a second command that Ezekiel made. He talked to the wind and he said, wind, fill these bodies. And the bodies were filled with the wind. Let me take a page out of my daddy's book and let me help you understand. Now, Ezekiel was a Hebrew prophet. And in the Hebrew, the word wind means ruah. I don't know if y'all were paying attention last week when our apostle told us that ruah means the breath of God. So Ezekiel commanded the breath of God to fill the bones, the bodies in the valley. And that time, when the wind went into the bodies, what happened was that the bones and the bodies got themselves together and they were able to stand up strong. They stood up strong. The breath of God filled what was dead, and life was brought in back to what seemed to be a hopeless, helpless, death-filled, faithless, a desolate situation. Got filled when the ruah hit. What did the ruah hit? It hit the lungs, and when it hit the lungs, it caused things to change. This time when the wind releases, this time when the ruah is released, this time when the breath of God is released, it's not just going to be I felt the wind, but it takes you to inhale. I gotta take in what God is releasing, and when the ruah hits, the way you prayed won't be the same. When the ruah hits, the way that you worship won't be the same. When the ruah hits, the way you sing won't be the same. When the breath of God hits your life, and when it flows, when you get filled with the breath of God, things won't be able to shake you the way they used to shake you. You won't be operating halfway, but you'll really be all in. You'll really be all in. When you take it in this time, it won't be the same. When you breathe in the breath of God, when you allow it to hit your lungs, the shift of God in your life will look so different from where it did a long time ago. Listen, it's going to be the wind of God that causes this season of your life to change. It's going to be the wind of God that causes your life to look different, and you won't be able to operate the same way that you once operated, because it won't be in your flesh. It'll be in a body but filled with the wind of God. It'll be in your body but filled with the glory of God. When you get filled with his wind, it won't be the same. The wind of God is getting ready to hit this house. The wind of God is getting ready to hit this house. The wind of God is getting ready to hit this house. I felt God when I was in this building, but what he's sending now is his wind, and your response to the wind hitting you is to inhale and take in the wind of God. The wind of God is coming. So if you're somebody that says, I felt the wind of God and I moved too soon and I missed the feeling, then this altar call that's about to take place for the wind to come down is for you. If you say, I missed the original feeling, don't worry. It's a filling station today. So the wind of God can fill you now. Come on. Come hit this altar. Come to the altar. Come to the altar. Come on. It's time to be filled with the wind of God. Hey, I'm looking for God to breathe. I need God to breathe in my life. That's what you're saying. I need him to breathe and to fill me. I've been full of something, but it wasn't the ruah, the breath of God. Yeah, come on. I'm going to give you time. Oh, God, we need you. He's coming. He decided to come to fill you up. He made a special stop at 10800 Scott Street. Come on, lift your voices. Come on, stand, everybody on your feet. Everybody, let's stand and get the wind of God to fill back up.